everyone, and welcome to No Such Thing as a Bad Movie podcast. It's October. I'm April at Man Scare.
Whoa!
And I'm here today with...
Justin Dream Warrior DeClue.
Oh my God. And I am the cabinet of Dr. Colin Cunningham Gary.
Ooh, scary.
Nothing says Halloween like expressionist horror
German
film
expressionist
from pre-World War II Germany.
That's right. So now that it is October, we're going to do a couple of Halloween-themed episodes.
Ooh.
And today we watched two horror movies, both from 1986.
Completely accidentally.
That's true. It tends to happen a lot. We watched Rawhead Rex and Spookies.
I asked Justin, he said, oh, it's the Halloween episode. And I said, we should watch something spooky.
And I was like, let's put on Rawhead Rex. Nothing says terror like a Celtic monster conjured from the imagination of Clive Barker in a movie that nobody likes. Ooh.
No, you said, well, we can watch Spookies.
Oh, yes.
Even
that's
better.
Right.
It all works.
All right, it's done.
I thought you were teeing me up for the fact that you thought Rawhead Rex was Rawhide Rex for your entire life.
For my entire life, when you said it, I'm like, oh, I know that movie, and I've never seen it, but...
It's that cowboy monster movie, right?
Yeah, I'm like, whatever. It's like, rolling.
Rawhide
Rawhide
Rex.
Rex.
So this movie it's kind of like a religious-themed monster movie, which has the most inappropriate looking ancient monster you would ever think would be in a Irish Celtic.
He's like a pagan god or an evil god or something like that.
This movie is based on one of the stories in Clive Barker's Books of Blood, and in the actual short story, Rawhead Rex is described very literally as a giant penis.
Like it says he's
Yeah, like it says he's essentially a walking penis. And even the movie, which was adapted by Clive Barker, keeps that theme going. But that's not how Mr. Rex, or is it Mr. Rawhide?
I don't know.
That's what his parents call him.
Yeah, he's like, call me Rawhead. Mr. Rex was my father's name.
That's right.
Well, they never said, like, eventually you kind of find out the priest says, we call him Rawhead. They never say Rex.
No, they never say a Rex. Do you think it was a thing that, like, they're in the studio and they're like, oh man, we need to make the cell. What's big? They're like, Dino City. That is massive. So let's put a little bit of Rex at the end of it.
But it's, it's so weird. But, master of horror Clive Barker, it's kind of comical, like watching this movie and you're thinking, my God, this is, Clive Barker. You kind of think of him as like the kind of classier horror writer.
Yes, and it almost seemed like a juxtaposition of two different movies. Although, I never read the original story, but it's like a brief plot summary. There's a family who is visiting Ireland and the father is studying, I don't know, saints or ancient things or something.
He's studying rawheads.
Yeah, exactly.
He's like, show me where your rawheads are.
At the very beginning, like groundskeeper or something accidentally digs up Rawhead Rex, and there's a big
it's a
giant,
big stone erect penis, which is
big
sticking out of the
monument,
ground.
and that comes to life.
Yeah, and Rawhead just like bursts out of the ground with his mohawk and his like leather duds.
Yeah, he looks like a biker.
He looks like, what I was saying was like, he looks like
the bad guys from Mandy.
or like a road warrior.
He does look like Ryuk from Death Note.
Death Note, yeah. He's like this big demon that, he's wearing like leather and ripped leather and exposed chest.
The face is also similar because he has these giant chompers.
And
kind of beady eyes.
4 sets of chompers.
Yeah. He's like the predator and the alien kind of rolled up into one.
So really what we're trying to say is he's not only the coolest looking monster in 80s horror cinema, he's also the most terrifying.
Well, I don't know about that. It's his face is very stiff and they kind of like cast it in one pose with his open mouth and his teeth exposed. And this animatronic cannot move. Like, it really can't.
Every time this animatronic head shows up, you instantly know it's there because it's rolling across frame, and you can feel the 10 technicians trying to like puppeteer him, and he's just moving from side to side, his eyebrows shooting in every direction.
His like eyes can blink, and that's about it. I don't even think his mouth really opens.
His mouth moves a little bit.
And then when it'll go to the wide shots, and it'll be somebody in a suit, and then it'll just be this rubber head that's bouncing around. You can clearly tell that the guy inside cannot see anything.
And also later, his claws are extendable.
Oh, yeah.
That in the climax of the film, the big reveal is his claws, Wolverine style, pop up like an
Slightly.
inch. Yeah.
Slightly.
Not even that big, just like a little bit. So, April, what was the thing that you loved most about Rawhead Rex?
Well, there is an extended sequence in the movie with a group of people who live in a caravan park, a trailer park.
Gypsies, as you called them.
If you will, for, Irish people.
If you want to call it a derogatory term.
Travelers.
Yeah.
as they
Travelers.
call it.
Yeah,
yes.
exactly. But a lot of the movie was bordering on kind of like a little boring, and it's not Rawhead's fault. He's great. He's actually in the movie a lot, but the main family is kind of meh, and like the main character and the wife and their kids are kind of boring. But then you go to this caravan town area, and they're like, the lower class people, but they're just like more interesting. They all have these like cool Irish accents that are obviously authentic, and they're making out, and there's like this little boy who's stirring up trouble, and then the Rawhead scares him, and then later they go back there and there's like explosions and people being pulled through caravans, and it's like all the action happens in this one area and everyone is on the sidelines like screaming. It was a lot of fun.
At one point, Rawhead just goes like, fuck it, and he just like tears into the caravan park, just ripping people out windows.
Well, I have to say, about 2 minutes before that scene happened, April was saying, God, I hope he goes back to that caravan park.
Like, when are we going back to the fireworks factory?
And
when he did, April was like, oh no, what did I do?
She felt guilty afterwards. It was like
True.
just this slaughter of all these people. It's amazing. It's a really good scene, actually.
And in 80s fashion, like a woman's top gets ripped off.
Just in the middle, randomly in the middle
and
of
it
the scene.
only makes Rawhead angrier.
Yeah.
Because he hates ladies,
Yeah,
which is a
we find
big
out-
plot
which we
point
find
in
out
the
later.
movie.
We find out he's afraid of women, something about fertility, pregnant women. Earlier in the movie, much like the Predator, he runs into a pregnant woman and he goes to... Well, he rips her shirt open and then he realizes she's pregnant and then he runs away.
I mean, as April mentioned while we were watching the film, one of the big problems with Rawhead Rex is he doesn't get rawheading enough. He tends to like grab people and just kind of strangle them like Homer Simpson.
He kind of lifts them up and then you hear a cracking sound. And,
Yeah.
that's
And then later he will be seen showing, holding a severed head or sometimes a arm or something.
You really want to see the head. Like,
Yeah, you
coming
want to
right
see
off.
like the ripping off or like the arms plopping off. And the movie doesn't really deliver. It gives a lot of like aftermath to violence.
Yeah, that's right.
At one point, Rawhead is just like pawing at somebody and like eating him a little bit, but not like splattery violence until a few moments right before the film wraps up.
Yeah, at the end, there's some like big gushing geysers of blood, and like that's what you really want.
My favorite part of the movie has to be the amazing windows in the church. Because right from the get-go, we see that there's
the
like
laser window,
these stained glass images of Rawhead Rex. Not like an expressionist version of him, like it's just Rawhead, and his two red eyes shoot lasers into the church
constantly.
Yeah, that I can only imagine there's a PA on the other side having to like move them around to give them a little bit of life.
Just shining a bright red light through the window.
Yeah, it's like the priest is sort of giving a sermon at the beginning of the movie.
And there's there's lasers.
But it's like this, we were laughing. It was like, oh, it's like the Predator targeting lasers.
Can you imagine if Rawhead showed up and he's like, I got laser eyes. Didn't you look at the stained glass window? It's like,
I was making it pretty obvious.
He does have laser eyes.
Hey, my name's Rawhead. This is how I talk. Instead of being like, hello, my name is Rawhead.
Oh, yeah, well, he's from the mind of Clive Barker.
Yes.
Whenever you have to do a British accent, Justin,
I always start with hello. Then how will you know I'm doing a British accent if I don't go hello at the beginning of it?
You can just do an idea and just go, oh, I'm talking British.
That's terrible.
Have you seen Oliver Twist around? What other British things do I know? The Beatles.
I don't know.
Yeah, Rawhead is British. That's why he hates the Irish in this movie.
Yeah, who doesn't?
Just think of the British bake show. It's a lovely crumb structure.
It's the crumb structure.
You know, like Rawhead is dressed like he's about to go to a gay bar of some kind. Like you wonder if
It's a leather daddy thing.
Yeah,
he's
it's a
got
leather,
going on.
like which way he's gonna wear like the pocket thing to like
No,
let
it's
people
like
know.
his bandana.
Yeah, his bandana.
No, he's flagging.
Yeah,
at the
is
back.
he like? Is he a top? Is he like?
Is he lips or hips?
Yeah, who knows?
Yeah, also like he's got like rips in his rips. He's got rips in his pants and everything, so they're like fashionably cut.
Yeah, maybe that's the problem. Is like Rawhead is just looking for that connection, but because his outfit is all ripped up, he's like, I don't know how to communicate.
No, he's in the
Rawhead.
He's in the wrong town because like everybody in this movie wears cardigans.
Yes,
this is
Big,
like
thick wool.
I swear to God, the protagonist has the biggest cardigan.
It's a sweater.
a shawl neck cardigan.
and it goes up into like a scarf. It's
Yeah.
like all you got to
Amazing.
do is throw this thing on, and you're gonna be warm. All Irish, I guess. Fall we're supposed to be.
Well,
in.
I bet the costume designer was actually thinking practically and was like, these people are going to be cold. It is like an Irish fall or winter. I'm going to dress them all in the
It's
biggest...
an Irish summer, so it is freezing.
Yeah, the biggest sweaters you've ever seen, except for that poor girl who has her shirt ripped off.
Well, there's a scene that I think you see one of the actors in the church, and they're talking, and you can see the breath.
Oh, can you?
Yeah, it looks very, very cold.
like he never takes this thing off. I'm
No,
sure he was like, oh yeah, it feels good. It's a little itchy.
Even at the end,
Yes, he's still wearing
the
it.
church is
Yeah.
on fire, and he's
Yes,
fighting a
that's
priest,
true.
and
He's wearing this cardigan sweater.
Yeah.
But speaking of the priest, we should mention the red light thing. So what happens at the beginning of the movie is the red light comes in through the stained glass window, and I guess it hits this priest and it turns him evil, and he becomes like a slave.
Rawhead has very
Rawhead?
ill-defined powers.
Yeah, I
like
don't
he
know.
can hypnotize people if he gets them. He gives his penance stare.
His little eyes do the little kind of like.
And then there's the, what's it called? The casket in the church.
there's like the altar of the
Altar,
church.
yeah. And when you touch it, your hand becomes bright red.
Wait, I have some questions
get
for you,
burnt.
April. The casket of the church? You see there's a casket up there?
Yeah,
There's a casket
that's where they
at
keep
the,
Jesus.
the head of every church.
I don't know anything about churches, but I thought that's
At
how
least
it works.
Irish churches. I mean, I think maybe the whole movie's a metaphor that like Rawhead is a gay man in a Catholic town.
Oh my God.
And they're demonizing him.
That's amazing.
The priest is like insane and he loves him so much. Maybe
He's like pure Rawhead.
yeah.
I said Rawhead during the screening so many times.
I
love to say Rawhead.
Rawhead is such a weird thing to say.
Mm-hmm.
Rawhide.
You're like, that's normal. That's what
Rawhead.
normal people say.
Rawhead.
It's
All right.
weird.
No,
We're going to say it so many times it loses meaning. Rawhead, Rawhead,
that's like-
Rawhead.
That's like when you have sex with a dog without a condom.
Yeah.
You're-
Because you don't
you're-
say raw dog when you have...
God.
No, you're Rawhead Rex.
Man, we're getting real spooky on this Halloween episode. Bestiality.
Like
this went dark.
Theodore Rex.
Oh, wait. Theodore Rex is not about Whoopi Goldberg in a romantic relationship with a dinosaur. Is
should
that
be.
what
No?
it is?
What?
That's why it went straight to video. It was too hot for theaters.
That's his brother, Theodore Rex. It's like
Oh,
Rawhead
Rawhead.
Rex. Yeah.
Yeah, and like Theodore is like the straight guy.
Oh, he's doing like kids movies.
He's a cop. Like,
Yeah.
he, like
Cop
he,
who doesn't use guns.
yeah, and Rawhead's like, I just want to be me.
That's
I just
amazing.
want to be me.
So your whole theory is like Clive Barker.
It's like a
you
metaphor.
know, I was shunned in Ireland by the Catholic Church
I don't know if it was Clive Barker himself that was
because
shunned.
because I'm gay, because I
Possibly.
wore ripped leather around,
And he had a mohawk
and I
like,
decapitated people.
and 2 sets of chompers that he loved to eat people
I
with.
murdered 12 people, and I was shunned because I was gay. It's like
So
Something
very,
like that.
very progressive
You're a
movie
horrible
for its
murderer.
time.
So, Colin, what was your favorite part?
this is an easy one. There was the one thing, and like when we started this show, I think it was in the first episode, or we kind of put them out of order. But the second episode, we talked about the things that we love about these sort of bad movies, these little gems that you find. You find scenes that you will never, ever see in another movie or
And
any
this
kind
scene
of
that
like mainstream.
you're talking about is in the original short story.
Oh, you know the one.
yes.
that I'm talking
I know
about.
exactly what you're talking
It's
about.
unexpected,
And
that's for
it's
sure.
unexpected, and I'm like, wow, I've never seen anything like this in a movie ever.
You're like, I find it maybe a little arousing.
This is amazing. And so the sort of priest who's like the kind of underling of Rawhide Rex.
Rawhide Rex.
What did I say?
You didn't say Rawhead. You said Rawhide.
Okay.
Well, whatever.
Rawhide Rex.
Yep.
Okay. Mr. Rex.
Yeah, Mr. Rex.
So the priest is kind of under his power, and he's doing his bidding and he's preventing people from actually getting this weapon. So the old reverend comes to the church, and it's nighttime, and he's sort of looking out, and he sees the priest, and he's kneeling in front of Rawhead Rex. then you're thinking, okay, what is going to happen here?
And then as like a 12-year-old boy, you're like, he's kneeling in front of Rawhead Rex.
In a cemetery.
But then you see it sort of from the Reverend's distance, so it's kind of far away, and then Rawhead Rex is in the foreground, and the priest is kneeling in front of him, and Rawhead Rex just starts pissing all over this priest, and the priest is loving it.
And it's not like acid pee or anything.
No,
He's not like, it's just
regular
pee.
pee.
Yeah, Rawhead.
I mean, I thought it was something else at first.
It's a big hose of a stream, and this
he
priest
sticks his
he's
head
loving
in
it.
it.
He's sticking his head in it, and he rips his shirt open, and he's just he's loving it.
And later he says like, I was baptized by the original God.
Is that how people get baptized? Do the priest pee on people?
Aren't you the Catholic one?
Yeah.
Probably what they tell people.
Yeah, I assume that's how it happens.
That's how they scare people away.
Let's say if Clive Barker and the director of this movie put anything in the world, they put the scene where Rawhead pees on a priest. And that's important, right?
That's amazing.
That'll be like the scene that'll be on their lips as they pass away to the world to be like, remember Rawhead peeing on that priest?
That's how Clive Barker talks now.
No, this is the director saying this. I
thought you were saying...
No, I'm not Clive Barker.
He talks like that now. He goes...
He does. Unfortunately,
just
Clive
put a
Barker...
British accent on it.
Yeah, had throat surgery, and he talks like this.
He had some nodules removed from his throat.
Yes, he did.
I think he smokes a lot.
George Pavlou, who this was pretty much his last major film.
I don't think he did 3 films.
Yeah, he made a film called Little Devils after this in 1993, which was like a straight-to-video Ghoulie/Gremlins ripoff. And before this, he made another film with Clive Barker called Underworld, also known as Transmutations. I've never seen it because people have not been very favorable to it.
And I think, as I read, the director just bumped into him at a party to Clive Barker and just said, "Hey, you should write a movie.
Rex.
Write a movie for me."
Yes.
And he was like, "Oh, okay, I'll do it."
Well, okay. I don't think he sounded like that at that point.
Oh, he just said,
"Hello, hello, hello." I'll do it for you.
I'll do it. Only I want a pissing scene.
I'm wondering, how long was Clive Barker in the movie industry at this point? Had he already made the original Hellraiser?
No, he didn't.
No, he hadn't.
No.
Yeah. So this is new. He's fresh, Books of Blood.
This is maybe one of his first adapted screenplays.
Yeah,
then,
and I think that after this movie, I don't think he was very happy with the way Rawhead Rex was portrayed on screen. So
and then he did Hellraiser himself, and he directed it.
Yeah, he immediately wanted to actually remake this movie, but then got involved in the Hellraiser films.
I don't think Rawhead Rex really needs a remake. It's the world isn't really clamoring from the dark version of Rawhead Rex.
No, but I'm
more
thinking,
penisy.
We were kind of talking during this movie, and I'm thinking the creature itself just is so weird. It's out of a different movie.
It's out of place.
Yeah, because everything else has this sort of classier sort of British feel to it, and I'm thinking, I was mentioning sort of Pumpkinhead.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it feels kind of Pumpkinhead-ish, but where Pumpkinhead knows how to shoot the monster, Rawhead Rex has no idea, and he's just always lit, and he's popping out of things like a Halloween haunt beast.
He shows up in the first 5 minutes of this movie.
He almost looks like a sci-fi creature.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's got glowing red eyes, and especially when it's a wide shot and he's running at people and the heads are wobbling on the shoulder.
It's comical, yeah. It's very weird. But if you can picture Pumpkinhead would be...
I haven't seen Pumpkinhead, but is it someone with a pumpkin on their head?
No.
And he's
he's just called Pumpkinhead.
Yeah. So the story of Pumpkinhead is a guy was carving pumpkins, and he's like, "Look at me juggle them." One of them fell on his head. He's like, "Ah!"
And then
that's how I remember
a horror
it.
movie happens.
Yeah.
But I feel
Kill Crazy Rampage.
I feel like the end of this movie of Rawhead, it was almost the scale became kind of small, and I felt like I was watching a 90s TV show. That climax in the graveyard. It was this is the X-Files or something like that.
Well, Forever Night or something like that, the Canadian TV show.
I was kind of almost reminded. I was unfortunately reminded of Star Trek: The Next Generation because the main character's wife comes in.
All the pissing on priests.
Shut up. Now the main character's wife comes in and she has red hair and she had this blue coat that was the exact color of Beverly Crusher's coat, and she holds this there's a vagina statue, and then that's what foils the beast.
And then you're Star Trek: Next Generation.
I don't know. I just felt very small scale and cheesy, and although I love the lovely light wave effects, it came off very I don't know. I was expecting more.
It does feel small because at the end, Rawhead comes out of the church and he kills a bunch of like SWAT team members. And then the assumption is Rawhead just hangs out in the graveyard when the main character comes in.
Yeah, it's like, what are you going to do?
What's Rawhead got to do? But he does kill a kid in this movie. Always
yes.
fun.
Yeah.
Off screen, of course, because a lot of things in this movie are unfortunately
Well, we do get to see the father's, like, sorrow as this kid is being killed.
He wasn't that great at looking scared.
No.
He was okay.
Yeah, I mean, like, this is a film that it's a bunch of disparate parts. Like, you follow random characters you've never met for like dozens of minutes just to see them killed at the end of it.
Yeah.
And because the protagonist is not that interesting, even though the director seems to think he's making Don't Look Now, because there's a direct Don't Look Now reference that the film stops for.
Oh, right after like the most disgusting tongue kiss
between the main character and his wife Beverly Crusher. And also there's gross tongue kissing throughout this whole movie, but there's the caravan couple and then there's a couple on television.
It's like Rawhead is getting them all rowdy.
I'm telling you, this is a horrible portrayal of Ireland. As a half Irish person, this is
they're
terrible.
all horny.
It's like they're all horny travelers.
Haven't you ever heard the expression the horny Irish?
The horny Irish. It's like, jam your tongue down me throat.
When Rawhead gets around with his pheromones and his phallic shape, we can't control ourselves. I can't. Was that an Irish accent?
I don't know.
My lucky charms. That's how I start all my.
He can't control himself.
If you can't, that's a bit of a lilt there. I'll jam me tongue down your throat and
God.
go from there.
So after the amazingness of Rawhead Rex, we decided to pop another monster movie in, and I decided to go with Spookies, a film from 1986 that I've heard a lot about, mostly because a few years ago I read the oral history of Spookies that showed up on the Dissolve. I would highly recommend to go read it. And this is a film that's most famous for just having a bunch of monsters in it, and also being completely re-edited and reshot by the producers. So this film, which was made by two young filmmakers who thought they had an Evil Dead on their hands, which was basically just like a haunted house film where like a bunch of doofuses go to a haunted house and run into a bunch of monsters, was taken out and new monsters were edited in, which is crazy because this movie has like 50 monsters.
It's like
and now it
the
has like
monsters.
75.
Yeah, there's like every single monster you can think of is in this movie. I think this is like the precursor to Cabin in the Woods.
I feel like they must have seen or at least heard of this movie before because it's surprisingly similar.
And it's also incredibly incoherent.
Yes.
Like, you have almost no idea what's going on.
Especially at the beginning, the setup, like as soon as it kind of opens with this kid running through a field and then it's intercutting with like the group of like teenagers. And
But that's like the whole idea is this is like two movies that was like cobbled together. Although it's like it's one movie and then they decided, I can make it better by adding these scenes that don't really have anything to do with it and keep cutting back and forth between them. And it's very disparate.
Yeah, so like the story goes that the producer, who didn't really know what he was doing, was convinced by some porn people that they could reshoot the entire film. But he went, no, I have at least 45 minutes of good stuff here. So let's just pad that out to 90 minutes. Now that makes it sound like the movie like wasn't long enough, and it was. The rough cut was 2.5 hours, and they thought there was only 45 good minutes in that, which is insane considering how many monsters this film has.
It's just unrelenting. It's just like this onslaught, and you're just like, I can't imagine. Like we're thinking back to Rawhead Rex. I was going to say Rawhide, goddammit. But just talking about that character, and this movie is just throwing these monsters at you, and you never see them again.
And they're not like it's not like a bunch of Draculas or mummies or anything like that.
There's some really inventive ones.
There are some mummies in this.
They're muckmen, if you will.
We'll get to those.
Yeah, but like I was gonna say that like the effects are actually pretty good. So it's like I can see why they went over budget on the monster effects because some of these are only on screen for, I don't know, 2 minutes maybe.
If that, yeah.
And they clearly put a lot of work into these practical effects.
Like one of the problems with the script in the oral history, like the cinematographer talks about how like it took ages to like get these mechanical effects to work. So I think they went only like, I mean, I say only, but from $250,000 to like $300,000.
Right.
Yeah.
But like the producer freaked out, and when he showed the rough cut that was 2.5 hours, a distributor was like, well, we can't show this is too slow. And the directors were like, well, let us cut it down to 90 minutes to like something presentable. Even the sheer amount of monsters in this makes me think that there's no way that it would have been like that boring. Because I've seen movies that have only one monster in the last 20 seconds, and I'm like, like, oh yeah, that was fun, I guess.
It's still good, you know, but they already had a bunch of monsters and then they added more monsters.
And I don't mean to say that like the original film was some brilliant thing, because like from the footage we see, it would have probably been pretty grating when you're with the human characters.
But they were entertaining. Like, we found entertainment in them. Some of them are really funny. It was just the kind of cutting away because there's kind of two stories going on. There's like the kind of characters in the
Story
house.
is a very strong word.
I know. But, or
It's
plot
just-
lines, I should say.
It's just your average bunch of teenagers are for some reason going to a haunted house to have a party. And
with two old people?
No, they on the road, they run into another car of older adults.
And
And
like,
they
hey, we're going
decide
to
to all go to the same party.
Yeah, which is very
Which is
strange.
not a party, it's just a haunted house.
And at the same time, a 12-year-old boy is very sad that no one is throwing him a party, and he is being chased by a cat man of some sorts, and both these stories are running parallel to each other.
And it's so weird. And so in like the first sort of 10 minutes is like this intercutting of these two stories.
And don't forget, there's also a crypt keeper who's doing something in a crypt.
That happens when we get to the house. So it's almost like when the kid is running through the fields going to the house, then he encounters like this vagrant who wants to borrow he's going to kill this kid. And then the cat man intervenes.
He is the cat man, isn't he?
No, he's not.
No, the cat man kills him and
Whoa,
saves the kid.
switcheroo.
It's very confusing.
And then when the kid gets to the house, the cat man kills the kid and then buries him. And this is
after throwing him a birthday party.
This is all
Yeah.
within probably the first 15 minutes.
And
Yes.
this is also intercut with the teenager stuff. And then it turns out that the house is being controlled by this like Dracula-like man who has this young bride. And so it's like old man, bride, kid, cat man. And that's like all like the new stuff.
That's all I need to start my script.
There's also a stretchy witch.
Yeah.
Which is the best part.
it was a puppet,
Yes.
but it was a pretty good looking puppet.
And that was
pretty
new
cool.
footage. And there's
Yeah.
also a bunch of bonus zombies at the end. Even though there's
Yeah.
already zombies in the movie.
Yeah,
Of
so
course.
all that like weird family is like the new stuff, and then teenagers encounter monsters is the
Oh yeah, there's also
stuff.
a weird puppet that's like mama that shows up for one shot.
One shot.
It
It's
literally
insane.
feels like the reshooters just went and like grabbed whatever shit was in the shop and just like
Throw
put
a
it-
wig on it and like,
'cause
it's a new creature.
We're at a better level than like we went to the Halloween store. It's like a prosthetic, not
Yeah, like,
prosthetic,
they're
but like
actually,
a prop.
like,
yeah, well,
built.
these are
Yeah.
like custom made like for the
Yeah.
movie.
They brought it from the porno warehouse.
Oh man, do you think there's some like
my
weird
God, that
pornos
would
out
be
there
funny.
with like a stretchy witch? Why do you think her mouth stretches so big?
Oh, I'm sure
she
it's
needs
out
to
there.
take 10 guys at once.
Yeah, it's just from our movie Witch Fucker.
Yeah.
Witch Fucker 1 through 9.
And in the movie, she doesn't look that scary. We made her pretty, but we just, in Spookies, we just like dirtied her up a little bit.
Throw a wig on her. She'll be fine.
There you go.
Witch fucker. They don't get scary or serious until part 7, but that's when, you know, the continuity starts playing in. The characters from Witch Fucker 1 and 3 team up to do a heist. Or
all
to like
connected.
fuck the witch, I guess.
Oh my
But it's
God.
all consensual.
Okay, this sounds amazing. We have to write this down. We're recording this. This is perfect.
Yeah.
Trademark. Nobody take this.
But
idea.
like it's actually difficult to differentiate the like teenager and adult characters because they're all kind of generic except for one guy
Yeah.
who loves making jokes.
Well, I was gonna say that's actually kind of my favorite thing. I don't know about my favorite, but one thing I liked.
Yeah, you'll take it, you'll take it.
about the movie was the acting, and it is not very good.
No.
But it kind of transcends that level of being so bad it's good. And there's a couple standout characters.
I mean, you're talking about the guy who has a puppet, right?
Yeah. So there's one character who he's just like got this terrible mustache. He shows up in the back of the car as they're approaching the house, and he's just terrible. Like the delivery is terrible. I think I said bad dinner theater actor.
I disagree. I think he's wonderful.
And then like he's really, really bad, but it's bad because he's like cracking really, really bad jokes.
Yes.
And then a puppet just shows up and he has a puppet and they're like, oh, you know, Joe, knock it off or whatever his name is. So they're all just like tolerating him. And then later in the movie, he has a shirt with a picture of himself and the puppet on it.
That's amazing.
Classic bit.
That's
I
crazy.
love this character.
You did?
Yes, he's awesome.
He's clearly like
He's the worst.
Whatever.
He was really bad at delivery.
If you were having a party, he's the guy that you would want to show up at the party.
You're
don't
like,
know.
hey, can you get Jim, the guy with the puppet? Do his shtick.
You've got all the babes at the party ready to go, and then Jim shows up with his box of puppets. And it's
Oh,
like,
so like he would make you cool in comparison. Is that what you're trying to do? That like
That's right.
No, he would provide entertainment. What are you talking about?
Okay, yeah.
Well, also there was another character, which was the jerky boyfriend character. No, what was his name? He had a.
Oh, it's like Duke or
Duke.
something.
It was
I think
Duke.
it was Duke.
It was Duke, and he was wearing this ridiculous leather
all
shirt.
leather, all leather pants and a leather shirt.
He had leather pants.
Oh yeah, leather.
Does
pants.
he even get killed?
This is a weird thing about
no,
this movie.
I'm sure he did, because later in the movie it's just his girlfriend and the two older people.
He gets decapitated, kind of, by the Grim Reaper monster.
Oh, yeah.
okay.
It all happened so fast, and there were so many deaths and so many monsters, it's hard to remember. Although, Puppet Guy does get eaten by a spider monster.
So we should
That was amazing.
get to the part that I love the most, and it is 100% the thing that people remember from this film. So there's a scene where two characters stumble into a wine cellar, and they start just drinking this garbage wine.
Oh yeah, okay.
And like I think the guy's like, nothing could happen to us down here, even though they've been like attacked by like a bunch of monsters by now.
And some of their friends are already dead.
Well, he starts trying to have sex with her. He's like, "Hey, come on, baby."
Yeah, he like puts like a sheet down. He's like, let's do it. And she's like, that's not gonna happen.
This is a Duke jerky leather boy.
And then suddenly, from the ground burst these Muckman arms, and there's a bunch of Muckmen, not just one, but like 3 or 4, in these full prosthetic suits that start walking around. And supposedly what happened was, the producer, while watching the film, went, you know what would be funny in this scene? To add some fart sounds. And the director who had come in and was reshooting was like, no, what? That's stupid. And he's like, come on, let's just put fart sounds. She's like, all right, let's put it on the mix. And if it doesn't sound good and sounds awful, take it off. And when they got it back, they watched it, and somebody in the room laughed. And the producer was like, see, look, it's funny. So the farts stayed in.
That's terrible.
And these farts literally sound like someone in the theater is going...
No, it's one step above like the stock fart noises that we've all heard, but they're even worse.
It exactly sounds like that. Like they're dry and not that good. And they're timed to nothing. It's just someone watching it and farting.
And just randomly adding fart noises.
You know, but I guess he's right. Farts are funny.
I'm telling you, I paid 99 cents for this tap and fart app, and it's like the best 99 cents.
Wait, you can just get it for free?
What do you mean? No, it's 99 cents.
You had to pay for it. But these are like mummies, right?
This is like an investment, Justin.
They're muckmen, April.
But I don't remember them being very mucky. And we mentioned like the farts sounded very
they're
dry.
mummies. They're kind of wrapped in...
Very dry.
But you said, you're laughing. You said, oh, their farts sound very dry. And I said, well, they've been drying out
They were like dusty.
Do you think that was a conversation they had when they were doing the sound? That
What
they're
should
like,
the farts
we want like wet
sound
farts. And they're like, no. This should be dry. And there was like a conversation between the producer and the director. It's like, we need the right consistency of fart.
And then the effects technician is like, can we get dust coming out of their anuses?
Of course we did not.
Colin Cunningham gets a call. He's like, listen, we're remastering Spookies.
I'm like,
there's one
yes?
thing that's missing.
Oh my
Yeah.
God, a 4K restoration? I'm in.
And we want to add dust coming out of the Muckman farts.
I'll do this for free.
But the problem is, that's really imposing a different vision to what was on screen.
Well, okay, maybe do a director's cut.
Yeah, that's
So like,
right.
get Ridley Scott. We'll decide, what is a
Disc 1
what is a
is
beloved
version of
version?
Spookies.
Yeah,
But as it is now, they're just dropped into the scene.
willy nilly.
Exactly.
But once they like disappeared and the scene kept going, I was a little bit sad. I was like, I wish the farts would continue. Can you imagine one of the characters was like, I'm still farting?
No, but it was like they were
walking.
they were farting when they were walking too. So it was like,
And like, this is not a funny movie either.
No.
Like, it's not
Well,
overly committed.
it tries
it's-
to be.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
we have the John Lovitz / John Waters character, which is with the
Puppet man.
with the puppet
yeah,
guy.
the puppet man.
He needs his own movie.
You should just direct it.
I'm getting out of here. These mummies are coming after me.
He's like
With the farts.
He's like out of like a slapstick comedy. There's one point where he steps in a bucket, like a mop bucket.
He's
and
like, "Whoa."
He comes out of a door. No.
Yeah.
I bet you the director's like, we need to lighten the scene up. All right, George, give us what you got. And he's like, I can do this. My shtick. Just let the cameras roll.
Dude, that was on his resume. I can be a puppeteer. He's probably a magician as well. He's like a slapstick comedian.
The director is like, coming off that mummy scene, I think it's just too heavy. We need to lighten the mood. Could we please get an idiot with his foot in a bucket?
I like
with
how
a
the
mop?
director's like British for some reason. Like, he's very polite.
Sure.
I feel that like the actor who's like the puppet man, like his resume, there'd be like him as like a scientist, like him serious, like all those different looks.
All these pictures as headshots, and then he's got like the puppet on his shoulder.
He's like looking in the microscope, like, whoa.
That's what I'm saying. He was for some reason walking around with a T-shirt, which basically had his own headshot on it. I don't understand.
That is cool.
Genius.
That is amazing.
Yeah,
I'm gonna
perfect.
do that.
So what was your favorite part, Colin?
Speaking of Puppet Man, his death scene is fucking amazing. Like,
Probably the best death scene in the movie.
It's crazy. And,
comedic and kind of scary.
this is getting to the point where we were just like, Jesus, how many more monsters are they going to have in this movie? And so he goes into the basement or something like that, and he gets sort of like trapped in this spider's web.
The world's tiniest spider web.
It's so funny. It's just barely enough to kind of like catch him on it.
Tiny net.
I
Can't
know.
fight against it.
but actually before that happens, well, he meets this
There's
beautiful
like sort of like
Asian woman. But,
Asian woman down in the basement.
But then these like prosthetic spiders start, like big ass prosthetic spiders.
But then this music starts playing, and the music sounds very much like flies. It's like, and he's like, oh, and then she starts transforming into this spider.
Yeah, and she has like three
There's,
kind
like,
of masks.
phases.
Yeah, that she wears.
And so like every phase she went through, it'd cut away back to him and then cut back, and she'd be in a new sort of form. Mm-hmm. And you're just like, Jesus, that's one mask. And then like,
it kept
Christ,
going
another
and
one.
going.
And then like, God, now her head is splitting apart. And then like, I think she had like 4 different
She became
versions.
a gigantic spider, and then doesn't like when her head splits apart, like lasers come out of it or something?
Yeah, probably.
I wish. Yeah,
Was I
probably.
thinking- am I
Clive
thinking-
Barker
am I
showed up
thinking
with
the
his
last
lasers
movie?
from like Rawhead Rex.
I remember it glowing or something. But who knows?
I've got my lasers. It's from my Rawhead Rex's eyes.
And now it's not only that like she turns into a giant spider and comes toward the guy. You get even like a little dessert as well.
oh yeah, okay. She comes up to him, and her mouth opens, and it's like an alien jaw comes out. It's basically like Alien goes right into his belly and immediately just sucks everything out of him, and he just deflates like a balloon.
Man, I love the deflating
It's
like
wonderful.
person effect, like, and it's like they obviously like spent the time to, like model a life-size version of this actor.
It's great.
Just to deflate him in like a 2-second shot.
We were very happy. That was the best death in the whole movie.
It's like the beautiful cousin of the dummy shot.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the reverse dummy shot, where it's like you take the skin of a person, which is like once it's deflated, it's like, okay, it doesn't really look like this person's clearly prosthetic, but it looked really good, I have to say.
Well,
it was
'cause, like,
really
when-
fun.
It was all cut so fast, though. It was like
Yeah.
boom, boom, boom.
And I think that effects like that are so surreal work really well because you're caught off guard no matter how fake it looks. He's like,
Yeah.
whoa!
Yeah, and that whole scene was just like building and building and building,
Yes.
and like all these amazing things layered on top of one another, and then it's like, whoa, out of nowhere. It
it had
amazing.
a great ender.
Fantastic.
But I was going to say
That's the end of scene.
that was probably the most memorable monster of the millions of monsters that were in this movie.
Right.
The Grim Reaper scene was pretty fun. That had some fun effects.
was great. It was multiple scenes.
They had someone just like running into like a wall.
Yeah,
and
like someone's like,
breaking
I gotta
through
get
it.
out of here. Like a cartoon, the
Oh, he
person
dove
like,
through the door.
dove through the door.
That was like when you mentioned that how the movie was a little bit unlike Evil Dead, whereas Evil Dead has a lot of movement and characters moving around, and it seemed a little static.
Mm-hmm.
That scene, everyone was all over the place and running around and falling and jumping up and down. And the Grim Reaper, what is that? Is that the Grim Reaper?
I
don't
guess
know.
so. What is this house? This like million a monster house.
Who knows?
I mean, if I have to critique Spookies for one thing, aka Twisted Souls,
Right.
it's that the ending really leaves a lot to be desired.
Does it ever?
Because the film essentially doesn't end, and like the people in the house are abandoned, and we get the bride from the new footage just chased around by zombies for seemingly
Very long time.
Like 10
I went to the
minutes.
bathroom and I came back out and it was still going on. I'm like, is this still going on?
and then a ghoul pops out of a grave, and it's like freeze frame, and the credits roll, and it's like, what the heck?
Yeah, like somebody rescues her in a car,
Mm-hmm.
and then he's like, "I've loved you forever," and then
it's Catman.
It's the Catman.
Yeah, I think we really underplayed how much Catman is in this movie. And by that,
Constantly.
I mean he's really not in the movie, but they keep inserting shots of him on the other side of doors, like listening to the things that are happening.
And he's not even like a cool Catman.
No.
He's just like a cat dude.
He's
He
like-
looks exactly like Nightcrawler from X-Men.
Maybe
Yeah.
the reshoot director was like, I love X-Men. Let's put a little Nightcrawler. Bam.
No,
Really
other way
looked-
around.
really looked
sure,
like
like
it.
Bryan Singer was watching this movie.
That's what I'm gonna get. Who played Nightcrawler in that movie? Great
Alan
actor,
Cumming.
Alan Cumming. Yeah, he looked
I
surprising.
am invincible.
Exactly.
Looked surprisingly like that
So
character.
Bryan Singer is watching this movie.
So Spookies is a film that feels like the nightmare a 12-year-old would have on Halloween night after like eating way too much candy.
Yes, it's
Absolutely.
like every creature in the world and monster is coming after you.
And then, like a 12-year-old, you're like, I don't know how this is supposed to end. Yeah.
So, if you might be wondering where you can get these movies or see these movies, Rawhead Rex, I believe, just had a new release, right?
Yeah, by Kino, a super duper special edition with commentary by the director, interviews with everyone, including the person in the Rawhead Rex suit, little booklet in the case that you can read, and a slip cover as well, just for that pure Rawhead experience.
Amazing.
Wow.
And we watched it on iTunes. It was great.
Yeah, it's also on
a
iTunes.
really good
That's right.
transfer.
So you can buy or rent it off iTunes, but that Blu-ray does sound pretty sweet.
And Spookies supposedly got a proper release from a DVD company in Quebec, out of all places.
Oh my God.
But that feels a little fuzzy. Like, it's actually a new scan of a print.
Right.
But, like, the DVD company is also out of business now. Like, they closed up shop. So
it
it's
kinda
real
sounds-
kind of, like,
Yeah.
dodgy. But you can also find it on YouTube, because it's one of those movies.
And also, if you live in the Toronto area, there may be a screening of Spookies coming to your town soon.
Through the Laser Blast Film Society.
I think it would be really, really fun to experience this in a theater full of people because it's just like, oh my God, everything's coming at you at once. I think the audience is really going to respond well to this.
Yeah, I think it would be crazy to watch with an audience. So hopefully that will be a very memorable experience.
I'll put a link in the description, but the date is October 12th.
October 12th.
October 12th. That's right. The date is
Isn't that voice?
This is my Halloween voice.
Clive Barker's going to go, did somebody say lasers?
exactly so many lasers. Okay, so the date
Oh
will be
man, I
October
want to get a
12th.
spooky like
Laser.
church glass window made.
Oh, yeah,
of like
like
all
laser
the
blast.
monsters.
So if you would like to send us an email, you can email us at nosuchthingasabadmovie@gmail.com. We would love to hear comments, questions, suggestions, or you can tweet at us. We actually received a tweet last week of a recommendation that will probably be on the episode that you hear next, that will come out in 2 weeks.
And it will be a spooky episode as well. 'cause
That's
we're in
right.
October, yeah.
That's right. We're doing a bit of a spooktacular Halloween horrific theme this month. So look forward to that episode. You can always tweet at me at April Atmansky. I'm also on Instagram.
You can follow me on Twitter or tweet at me. My name is DeClouJ, DECLOUX, or follow me on Letterboxd, which is just Justin DeClue, same spelling of my last name. I'm watching a lot of spooky movies, so if you want some suggestions, just check the movies that I'm reviewing on Letterboxd.
I love how you're still doing your laser blast voice.
Yeah, this is my real voice. I put a radio voice when I do this podcast on. Sorry, it's breaking.
If you want to follow me on Twitter, it's at Sergeant Zima, SGTZIMA, and I think I'm the same on Instagram.
Anyway, have a spooky October. I'm April Atmanskare.
Well, I'm
Okay.
Justin Demon Knight DeClue.
I'm the cabinet of Dr. Colin Cunningham and Gary.
And,
Calling Creature Cunningham is right there.
and remember, there's no such thing as a bad movie.
Ooh.